Alrighty, folks. I don't know if you have seen this, but it looks like Bitcoin or BTC is back over 30,000. Folks on my channel know that I am by no means a crypto expert, but you will also know that I took out an insurance policy, or at least what I call an insurance policy, in 2019. I bought a little bit more than a full Bitcoin and a bunch of Ethereum. And so I'm going to ask the man, myth, the legend, Mr. Dan Bird, to simply look at the charts and tell me what the charts say. Again, it is just an insurance policy, but it did cross my radar that Bitcoin back over 30,000. So I'm like, hey, what do the charts look like? And for that, I go to you, Dan. How you doing?
Very interesting. So you won't buy stocks, but you'll buy Bitcoin.
I bought 1%. I moved 1% of my net worth into crypto. That is true. Bitcoin and Ethereum. Yes.
How about gold?
Silver. I have some silver.
All right. It's a good way to diversify.
Yeah. A little 1% here or there. Never hurt anybody.
No, absolutely. So let me share. First, I'll show my newsletter if anyone's interested. Something that I do for free. I do my own research on Saturdays. I put it all together and send it out to folks who are interested. If you want to join, just send me an email to breakpointtrading@gmail.com and I will add you to the list.
Very
Now,
cool.
for this conversation, I am going to give folks a little sneak preview of what we're doing on July 16th.
Yep.
And at the bottom of, actually, I have the, this is the,
Yep.
the event that we're doing on July 16th. At the bottom, it says special announcement. So I'm going to give you a sneak preview, but I'm going to talk about in a lot more detail what this is during that July 16th and give folks an opportunity to participate in this if they want to. But I've created a website, and I'm going to use this for this Bitcoin conversation.
Okay.
So this is still in edit mode, so it's not published yet. So I'm just giving you a, sneak peek of what the website looks like. This is the front page, testimonials. This is my famous secular bear and bull chart.
Yep.
That will tell me if we are no longer in a secular bull, which we are still in one. And then there are a number of things down. All the newsletters, including all the past newsletters, will be here. Charts, chart lists. I'm going to give some scan recommendations, etc. But in the charts section, there are a whole bunch of charts in here.
Wow.
And one of these is Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Okay.
So this is what we're going to use to look at Bitcoin.
Oh, that's cool.
All right. So here's Bitcoin. So what you can see, and this is a 3-year chart. So this is a weekly chart.
Okay.
All right. So it gives you a long-term view. A couple of things that I would look at right away. First, the momentum indicator up here. This is the PPO. And by the way, I've got some scans for these in my website, and I explain what all these things mean. So the PPO will give you an idea of the direction and the magnitude of the trend.
Okay.
All right. So if this is heading down like it has been here, then the trend has been down.
Okay.
And if these are separated, then that means it's an increasing in magnitude or decreasing in magnitude.
Got it.
All right. So these basically just track two moving averages, essentially. But it doesn't tell you whether it's oversold or overbought. That's what either the RSI or this little gray one in the background here, this is the stochastics. This tells you whether it's overbought or oversold. So when looking at Bitcoin right now, the first thing I can see is, number one, it crossed way back here in January, right along with all of the technology stocks. So it's tracking along with them.
Okay.
So it crossed here in January. That was the buy signal. If you were waiting to get in, that would have been the time.
Okay.
Then it went up and became overbought. All right. So you can see here, it went up and came back down. Now, what I can see here is that the volume, as it pulled back right here, and by the way, pulled back to the 21-day moving average, which I have said many times on this channel, is the reversion to the mean.
Right.
So it pulled back to the 21 on very low volume. So that means it's a healthy pullback, and all the people that were buying over here are not selling.
Right.
It's not panic selling. So right here, it started to take off again. And you can
Yep.
see the stochastics started to turn up. So that's telling you that it's oversold, starting to move back up again.
Okay.
So this was the time to buy back here, but this is telling you that the trend looks like it's going to continue. Now it needs to get over this 200-week moving average, which is this gray dotted line right here. But it may very well have the strength to do that. So this gray one down here shows what it's doing versus the S&P. So I know you're comparing apples and oranges here, but if you think about, you know, do I put all my money into an S&P index fund, or should I put money into Bitcoin? Well, how are these correlated?
Right.
Do they both go down at the same time? You can see they do. Do they both go up at the same time? And you can see they do. And this is actually a relative chart, so it tells you whether it's outperforming the S&P or not. And as long as it's above this pink line, this is a 50-day moving average, that means Bitcoin is actually outperforming the S&P.
Okay.
So you'd actually be better off having your money in Bitcoin than you would having it in an S&P index fund.
Interesting.
Right now.
Okay. Right.
And that crossover happened right here when this PPO crossed over. This vertical line that I drew here.
Clear buy signal. Yeah.
Clear buy signal. Yeah, it started to outperform the S&P right here. It had huge volume right there. It started trading above its 21-day moving average right there. The PPO moved up. Everything was moving up. And by the way, this is called a positive divergence. So this line that I drew here is showing that the trend was down for Bitcoin. But at the same time the trend was down, the relative strength was improving.
Oh, look at that.
So this basically is telling you that the downtrend is running out of steam.
Right.
So all of these things together right here in January are all confirming that the uptrend has resumed.
Okay.
All right. So it looks good for Bitcoin.
All right. Well, why don't we throw ETH or Ethereum in there and see if it's a similar chart.
So keep this, you know, this image in mind.
Yep.
And I can actually go back to it. So if we go back here and look at Ethereum, now same point, same thing happened.
Yep.
PPO crossed over the 21-day.
They look very similar.
Very similar, except the volume wasn't as great on Ethereum.
A little lower. Yep.
And we didn't have a negative, or we didn't have a bullish divergence on this one. So bullish divergence is when the price keeps falling, but the RSI goes up. In this case, the price actually started rising, and the RSI went up, which is positive.
Right.
It's just not giving you an advanced warning that something's about to happen.
Right. Okay.
All right, but everything else is. So good volume, not as good as Bitcoin. It's not moving up with the same.
Actually, can we check that? Sometimes the scales get us, right? The scales here are 2.5 and 5, 7.5, but Bitcoin may have a different scale.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And actually that brings out the reason I use a PPO up here instead of MACD.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to talk about this on the 16th when I talk about Technical Analysis 101.
Very cool.
The MACD is a moving average convergence divergence. So it takes two moving averages and shows you when they're starting to move apart, which means the trend is either increasing or decreasing.
Right.
But a MACD uses the actual price. So if you're comparing a $10 stock and a $500 stock, it's a very different comparison.
Right.
The PPO still uses the moving averages, but instead it uses a percent price oscillator. That's what PPO stands for.
There you go.
So it uses a percentage instead of the actual value.
That makes sense.
So for that reason, when you compare the two, they should compare similarly. So you can see the PPO up here on Bitcoin and the PPO on Ethereum. You can see Ethereum is following the same trend, but not as strongly.
Okay, makes sense. So
Bitcoin actually has a stronger trend.
Okay.
than Ethereum does. But Ethereum usually in most cases will follow along with Bitcoin. You can see here it actually hit a higher high and Bitcoin hit a higher high at the same time.
Yep.
Now Bitcoin hit a lower low, but Ethereum didn't. Ethereum actually started getting a higher low.
Okay.
Right. So Ethereum started to move up a little sooner, but not with the same magnitude as Bitcoin.
Very cool.
All right. So in both cases, they look pretty good. It looks to me like the trend is going to continue. On Bitcoin, this actually is positive. You can also see on Ethereum, it actually went above its 200-week moving average before Bitcoin did as well.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Even though it pulled back, and both of them pulled back to the 21-day, the reversion to the mean. Same thing. So this is positive news for technology stocks. Because again, if I go back to this and look at technology on a weekly chart.
Yep.
So this is what technology looks like. Technology is hitting its resistance level right now.
Oh, wow.
So you would expect it to pull back. In fact, what I would expect or hope to see, you can see a little cup and handle down here. When it broke out, I think we're going to see another larger cup and handle where this will pull back and then go up and test that resistance level and break through it. And if that happens, the distance between the low 120 and 170, that's 50 points, then that will equal, if it does form a cup and handle and breaks out. So don't anticipate these things. Wait for them to happen.
Right.
Then the distance will be the same. So another 50 points higher, or 220 on technology. But if you look at technology and Bitcoin, you know, Bitcoin is starting to take off right here. Still has work to do to get back to its highs.
Oh, for sure.
But technology is already at its highs.
Okay.
So even though, you know, I think we may have a pullback Monday and Tuesday, I think we might have a rally into the middle of July. And then I think the rest of the summer, everything's going to move sideways.
Right.
It'll probably be frustrating. The end of the year is when I expect everything to break loose, take off.
Very cool. Well, folks, if you don't know, we're doing a special event on July 16th, 3 hours with Mr. Dan Bird. We're going to go through Technical Analysis 101. We're going to talk about risk management and a risk calculator, and we will open it up to questions about stocks so you can interact with Mr. Dan Bird. Again, I will put a link below. Dan, any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
No, I think it'll be fun on the 16th. And I look forward to the section 3 down here, open forum. I want to try to leave at least an hour, maybe more than an hour, for folks to we'll just have a conversation back and forth. You can give me symbols and I'll see what they look like on a chart, or we can talk about the economy. We can talk about the inverted yield curve or gold or, you know, whatever, or Bitcoin or whatever you want to talk about.
There you go. Well, Dan, thank you very much for doing this. The audience really loves you and they asked for it. So thank you for agreeing. Dan, we'll talk next week.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thanks, buddy.